So now that we have learnt about the various types of nouns, let's do a quick exercise. So let's try to identify nouns. The little girl deserves the bravery award. So let us try to identify all the nouns that we have here. So here girl is a noun, little is definitely not a noun because little is showing a quality of the noun. So little is an adjective. So girl is a noun, and which type of noun? Girl represents a class of people, right? So under girl you might have Rekha, Anita, Neeta, all of them, they fall under the category of girl. So girl is a common noun. Deserves is again a verb. Bravery. So what is bravery? So bravery is a quality, right? So bravery is a noun and it is an abstract noun. What about award? So award again, it doesn't talk about the specific name of an award. So award is again a common noun. Let's move on to the next example. The army was rewarded for their discipline. So here army represents a group of people. So army is an example of collective noun. Rewarded is a verb. And what is discipline? So discipline again is a noun, and discipline again is a state. It is basically an action, or you can say it is an idea, but it is not something which exists physically. So this is an abstract noun. Godavari and you should meet the principal today. So here Godavari is the name of a particular girl. So Godavari is a proper noun. You is not a noun. Please understand this. I, you, he, she, they, these are all pronouns. So they are not nouns. So even though you also identifies a person, but all these words are used instead of a noun. So they are not nouns. What about the principal? So the principal again is a common noun. Why? Because we are not talking about a particular principal's name. So principal in general represents the principals of all the schools or the principals of all the colleges. So principal again is a common noun. Moving on to the last example, a flock of birds is flying in the sky. So here flock represents a group of birds. Flock of birds means that many birds together. So it shows collection of birds, and therefore flock is a collective noun. What about birds? So birds again, they represent a class of organisms. So birds represents common noun. What about sky? So sky is a thing in a way. Right? So sky is a thing which we can see, which is physically present. So sky again is a common noun. So with this, we have reached towards the end of this lesson, and I hope that this lesson on nouns would have helped you. Now, all I would advise you to do is try to look at more and more sentences, try to identify nouns in the sentences, and also try to classify the nouns, whether it is an abstract noun or it is a collective noun or a proper noun or a common noun. So do this exercise, which would help you to improve your knowledge on nouns. So I hope this lesson was helpful. See you all in the next lesson. About the types of nouns, we mostly talk about proper noun, common noun, abstract noun, and so on. Now here we will talk about another categorization of noun, that is countable and uncountable nouns. Now you must be wondering that what is countable and uncountable nouns? Now this categorization is done on the basis of whether a particular object or some specific persons can be counted or not. So countable nouns include names of objects or people that can be counted. Of course, that is why they are countable. Whereas those which cannot be counted, they fall under the category of uncountable nouns. Now let us look at these examples to have a better understanding. For example, if we take these two examples, sugar and pen. Now sugar, if I give you a bottle filled with sugar and I ask you to count the number of sugar that you have, will you be able to count? How will you count sugar? That I have 3 sugar, I have 5 sugar, I have 10 sugar. Can you count that? No, you can't count it like that, because first of all, if it is powdered sugar, so you hardly can even identify the particles of the sugar. Even if you can see the particles of the sugar, it is practically not possible to count the particles of the sugar. So sugar is an example of uncountable noun. Whereas if you talk about a pen, now if I give you a box filled with pens, will you be able to count the number of pens? Of course, yes, it's quite easy to count the number of pens. So pen is an example of countable noun. So I hope that this example of sugar and pen would have helped you to understand what is countable noun and what is uncountable noun. Now let us look at these examples. Milk and water. Which is countable? Well, actually none of these is countable. That's because whether it is milk or water, they are not even made up of particles, like they are fluids. So how do you count them? You just can't count them. For example, if I give you a glass of water and if I ask you, how many water do you have? What can you say? You can't count it, right? You can't say that, I have 10 water, I have 5 water. You can't say that, right? So again, water and milk, both of them are uncountable. Let's look at few more examples like honesty and friend. So honesty, what it is? It is basically an abstract noun. It is something which doesn't even physically exist in nature. So obviously honesty is uncountable noun. In fact, most of the abstract nouns, they are uncountable nouns because the abstract nouns, they do not have a concrete presence and therefore there is no scope to count them. However, when you look at the example of friends, they are countable because you can very easily count the number of friends that you have because one friend is basically one person and it is quite convenient to count the number of persons. So friends are countable. So out of all the examples which we have shown on this screen, pen and friend, they are countable. Rest of them are uncountable nouns.